All right, hey everyone, welcome back. So yeah, up until now we talked about competitive strategy at a high level, right? We introduced the model, we introduced these five different types of competitive strategies and what they're kind of all about from about 1,000 foot view. But now what we want to do is I want to break these down just in the sense of kind of doing one video about just cost leadership, just differentiation, just best cost. So what we're going to start off with first is one that's pretty easy for us to wrap our head around, hopefully, and that is low cost providers. All right. So it kind of says it all in the name here, right? We introduced this as the name of the game for if we've decided that our competitive strategy is going to be that we're going to be a low cost provider, it's all about exactly how it sounds. How can we provide the lowest cost possible for our end users? This is the value we provide them. This is the advantage that we provide, the reason they buy things from us. We are likely marketing people who are price sensitive in this sense, or, for a number of reasons, just want to have the cheapest product, right? So this cost driver here, it just, this figure gives you an idea about all the different, cost drivers, the different things that help determine what the cost we provide something is for. Now, a lower price essentially improves our profitability. We have to keep in mind only if that lower price is going to result in us gaining unit sales. So if we're going to go back to one of our basic economic principles, it's if we're going to sell something at a lower amount, we better sell a lot of it, and we better capitalize off of this idea of economies of scale, right? Because if we're going to be getting smaller margins by offering things at cheaper prices, then we've got to make it up in scale. We've got to sell more units of those kinds of things, right? And we can achieve this by either, you remember when we were talking about our value chain activities, we need to find some of those that we can do more cost efficiently. We got to save costs somewhere along there by doing this more effectively than our rivals, or by looking for places that we could eliminate unnecessary cost producing steps along that value chain. So essentially what we're looking for here as a low cost provider is how can we create a lower cost edge so that we can underprice our competitors, or our second option of we could charge that same price, right? A very comparable one to our low price rivals, and we just rely on that low cost edge that we've established somewhere along our value chain so that we can have fewer costs, offer our product or service at the same or comparable levels as our competitors, but that low cost edge somewhere we've figured out how to save some money along the way. We're going to use that so that we have a bigger margin that we realize based off the same price that we sell it to our competitors. And this can be kind of a tricky thing for us, right? It's one thing for me to say, yeah, let's just figure out a way to create a really cost efficient value chain. So go ahead and go do that, right? It's kind of a hefty undertaking. It's kind of a difficult thing for most companies. So it's not quite that easy, right? Well, I do want to provide you some examples here of some different cost effective, or I guess some activities we can do that do help our value chain to become more cost effective. And there's a ton, right? This is not even all inclusive. It's not an exhaustive list, but I do want to provide it for you. So hopefully some of these make some good sense for you, but it can be anything. Like, we want to really be watching for anywhere that we can capitalize on this idea of economies of scale. Obviously, that's our best bet as low cost providers, but just making sure that we are operating at full capacity or operating effectively, taking advantage of all these experiences that we've had. When new people come in, there's steep learning curves in certain areas. Let's make sure that we can use our tacit knowledge that we've developed over time in order to, work in our advantage. We have a better idea of how things work. It can be lots of these different things. And I'll leave this here for you in the notes that I'll provide you, just so you can look over some of these and get a good idea of where some opportunities to save costs along that value chain really are. So since we're always looking to kind of eliminate these unnecessary steps, these are another great list of some different things that we might do strategically as a business in order to try to eliminate some of those steps in our value chain that might be unnecessary for us after a while, right? By selling directly to customers, removing some of these middlemen situations, streamlining our operations, relocating our suppliers or our distribution centers, any of these kinds of things. You'll have a lot of opportunities to do these things while you're doing your simulation as well. Hopefully some of that practical experience is going to help you out in understanding how we can cut some of those unnecessary steps out during the process. Now, if we are going to be focused on being a low cost provider, this cost leader idea, there are a lot of things we need to make sure we keep in constant, keep constantly in our mind, I guess I want to say, right? And that is, we've always got to be strongly critical of all cost creating activities. We got to keep these in mind. Anywhere we can save even the smallest amount of money, it's important for us. It's not one of these things we can say, well, we'll be okay. A penny here or a fraction of a penny here and there along such a scale, right? If we create millions and millions of units of something and we're saving half a penny on each one, well, it doesn't sound like much until we add those pennies up, right? So we have to scrutinize every single little cost driver and make sure that we can try to get those to the lowest cost we can, but also remembering we don't want to compromise, the level of, let's say, value or the expectations of our consumers along the way. We don't want it to impact our product or service that they're already happy with, right? We've got to really keep these cost drivers in mind, make sure we continuously engage and speak with people in our organizations about where are these opportunities for us to cut costs? Where can we do this? Where can we do this, right? Really getting the feedback from the individuals on that front line to understand that these personnel really do usually understand really tacit, minute things that we may not know at higher levels. And so it's absolutely fantastic to ask them about, what's your take on how we should do this better or this, right? So we do that. We create these benchmarks that we'll talk about over and over throughout our classes, creating these benchmarks and understanding how do our costs compare to the people that we, kind of hold on this pedestal. Who are the people who do it best, and how does ours compare to them? How can we get our levels similar to theirs so we can operate the same type of capacity and efficiency that they're operating at? And benchmarking will be this idea we come back to pretty much over and over in strategy. So we want to try to operate as minimally as possible. Our costs are super important, keeping those in mind, and make sure that we are open to this idea of investing in future technologies or future, processes, ways of doing things that are going to drive those costs down over time, even if they take a significant initial investment by us, because trying to move into the future and operating at most efficient capacity possible is going to be the name of the game for us, because the cost is everything. So we also want to revisit this prior strategy, this broad cost leader strategy, but in the context of the niche or the focused market as well, right? Because we do also talk about this focused low cost strategy. So focused strategies just concentrate, like we said before, we're concentrating our attention on a narrow piece of that overall market. So we would say it's still all about, the name of the game is still all about lowest cost. Nothing has changed there. Just keeping in mind that all of these same suggestions all apply when we're talking about our focused low cost strategy. It's just that we are focusing it on a target segment, a more narrow target market niche. And that market niche, you might be asking, so how do I determine if it's niche, right? Size is relative. So how do I even know if something is a niche market or a focused market? Well, these are something subjective that we kind of determine as a business. So our market niche can be determined by a lot of different things, right? It might be geographic uniqueness, might be something that a group of people in one geographic area really need or like as compared to someone else, or might be specialized requirements for some product that creates a niche. Only a subset of people need this kind of, niche attribute for their products or services, or only this subset of people become very, focused on being price sensitive. So it might be these specialized attributes that appeal only to certain people that are comprised by, this is what comprises a market niche. It can be along a lot of lines, but it's going to be one of these things that we continue to, work through and discuss what it is really makes something a focused or a niche market. All right. So just remember, as we're coming back, it's all like it says right there in the title. Our cost leader competitive strategies are going to be all about how do we make sure we offer some product or service at the cheapest possible price for our end users.